Hey guys, welcome back to another video where we are going to look at AgilePoint NX connector for Google AI services. Integrating business apps with cognitive services like image analysis, text-to-speech and speech-to-text, etc. are very much the need of the hour for creating a really engaging customer experience where systems should be able to interpret and respond to provided input in various formats. AgilePoint and X product team have been investing a lot of their effort over last few years on the AI and cognitive services support to create customer engaging and highly responsive processes and will continue to be the focus in coming years as well. As part of that initiative, we are announcing a set of process activities to tie back into Google's cognitive services. Let's look at this connector in action. So I'm in my demo environment right now. The first thing I'm going to do is create an access token to connect to Google AI services. So I can either create it at a global level and share it across applications, or I can create it at an app level as well. In my case, I'm going to create it at a global level. So I'm going to click on Manage, App Builder, Global Access Tokens, and I'm going to go ahead and click Add Token. I'm going to search for Google AI, give it a name. So next it is asking me for client ID, client secret, and project ID. So I'm going to switch to my other window over here where I have logged into my Google account. The URL for that is console.cloud.google.com. This is the developer console from Google. Over here, you have to create a new project. So if you go to the menu, API and services, dashboard, before you can consume any of these AI services from Google, you have to create a project. Now, this is a pretty involved part of the process, unlike some of the other systems. So I'm going to show you how to create a new access token and project in Google from scratch. However, please always refer to the latest documentation from Google because it might change in terms of UI between the time of recording and the time you use it. So I'm going to first go and create a project. Right now, there's only one project over here. I'm going to say new project. And I'm going to call it something like my demo project. Now, it is also generating a project ID for me. I can always change that project ID if I wanted over here to give my specific project ID. I'm going to just go with the default and say create. So the first thing was I created a project. Now, once the project is created, click on select project. You can always change this from the drop down as well. You can see that there is a new project. You can click on this row and it gets selected. Now, once the project is created, within the scope of that project, we are going to perform some operations. So the first thing I'm going to define is Auth consent screen. It will ask me for the user type. I'm going to select external, create, give it a name, a support email. So I'm going to give the email ID of my Gmail account in this case. You can provide your app domain and restrict it to being called from your domain. You can give application homepage. So I'm going to just leave those as default. Next, it is going to ask me what is the developer contact information. I'm going to give the same email ID. Next, it asks me what kind of scopes do I want to assign to this app. You can always look at the list of scopes which are available based on your use case. You can add the scopes over here. In my case, I don't need any of these scopes which are defined, so I'm going to just go with default and click save and continue. Next, it is going to ask me to add some test users. So when the app is in testing phase, only these users would be allowed to use the app. So I'm going to just say add my own user. So my user name is added over here. Click save and continue. So the OAuth consent screen has been set up at this point of time. It gives me a nice summary for what has been done. So I'm going to now next go to library. And over here, we are going to start defining few of the libraries which I'm going to use. So you have to enable those. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use Cloud Vision library for image analysis. Click on it. Click enable. Click back button. Another back button over here. Now next, we are going to look for Cloud Translation Library for detecting or translating the text. I'm going to enable this one. Once it has been created, click back button again, another back button over here. Next, we are going to look at Cloud Speech to Text. And enable this one. We are going to do the same for text to speech. And finally, we are going to also enable Google Drive API. As part of one of my activities, I'm going to connect to Google Drive. So though this is not tied to the Google AI services, my demo uses Google Drive API. So I'm going to enable that as well. And once all of this is done, at any point of time, of course, I can come in and manage over here. But I'm going to go to API and Services dashboard. The last part is to enable credentials. I'm going to go ahead and click Credentials, create credentials of type Auth client ID. For the application type, select Web Application. Give it a name. Authorize redirect URI. So go to Manage Center, copy the redirect URI which we have, add it over here, and click Create. Now, once this is done, it gives me a client ID and client secret. I'm going to copy this over here. So enter that in the client ID area, client secret, and then it is also asked me for project ID. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the drop down over here, select it, and here is my project ID. So I'm going to select the project ID. Next, I'm going to generate an OAuth2 access token, and I'm going to set up renewal rate to 15 minutes. This is for added security that my access token would be recycled every 15 minutes or half an hour or every hour. So I'm going to say 15 minutes for now. It asks me to grant permission, so I'm going to say yes. I've not registered my app, so that's why that warning came up. And it gave me the OAuth2 token. So I can always create OAuth2 tokens this way. Similarly, I can go to Google Drive and using the same client ID and client secret, create an access token for the Google Drive. In my case, I've already done that. This part of the demo was to show how to create a project within Google Workspace and assign related permissions, and then finally create an access token. So next, we are going to switch to App Builder and look at some of these activities in action. So I have a sample process created over here. But before we look at that, let's look at the activity library. So there's an activity library called Google AI under which there are 5 activities: analyze image, detect language, speech to text, text to speech, and translate text. I have a sample process created over here which will show configuration of all these 5 activities. So I have a form where I'm going to input text in some foreign language and try to detect the language code. So the first activity is detect language. You connect to Google AI services using the access token you created, provide the variable in which the text to be translated has been provided over here, and then detected language code is stored in a local variable. Also, I'm going to store the confidence level from the Google AI services, which tells me on a scale to for 0 to 1 how confident it is regarding detecting the language. I'm going to show that on the form and use the same text to translate it to a different language. So next activity is translate text. Connect to Google AI, provide the text to be translated, select the language to which it should be translated. I'm going to select English in my case, and the translated text is stored in a variable over here. I'm going to show that the translated text on a form. Next, I'm going to do a demo for text to speech. So I have a form where I'm going to enter some text and invoke the text to speech activity. In this activity, again, connect to Google AI, provide the text which should be converted to speech, select the voice language format. So I'm going to say English. And where should this generated file be stored? So I'm going to select Google Drive in my case. There's a folder called AgilePoint demo, and I'm going to store my file under that particular folder and override if the file already exists. I'm going to show the generated output on a screen, but then next step, I'm going to ask for a voice file, which I'm going to convert to text. Now this time, I'm going to actually use local file system instead of Google Drive just to show a little bit of variation. So I can select any of these document repositories. So I selected file system. I provide the URL where my voice file has been kept. This is something which I'm going to get as a user input from a form. Connect to Google AI services, specify the audio format. There are various formats supported. Select the language of the original voice file. So my original voice file is in English. And then the translated text should be stored in a variable along with the confidence level and the detected language code. Next, I'm going to show the results of what got generated as part of the previous activity, and then we will move on to analyze image. Now, within analyze image, I'm going to upload 2 images. The first image on this activity, I'm going to analyze for label detection. So if you go to the activity configuration, analyze image can perform a lot of functions. So I'm going to say pick the file from my file system. The user is providing the file as part of the form input. Connect to Google AI. Now I can work off an image. I can also work off documents which are PDF or GIF files. Now there are various features, as I mentioned, which are supported for analyzing image. You can crop hints, document text detection, face detection for celebrities, image properties, label detection. You'll see this in action. Landmark detection, logo detections, object localization, safe search detection, text detection, and web detection. So I'm going to select label detection. For definition of each of these, you can refer to Google's documentation. I'm going to select label detection. Whatever has been detected, I'm going to map it to a repeating subform in my form. Similarly, I'm going to show the output of that, and then I'm going to have another image detection operation done over here. I'm going to upload second image. In this case, I'm going to do a landmark detection. So again, I'll pick the file from the file system, but this time I'm going to do landmark detection just to show you a little bit of a variation. So I have published this process out. I'm going to consume it. So I'm going to go to Work Center, My Apps, invoke my app. First thing I'm going to do is provide some text in a foreign language. In my case, I'm going to use text in Portuguese. Click submit. Now the process has been kicked off, so I'm going to go to tasks. Open the process viewer. I'm going to work off the process viewer so that you guys can follow the demo. So you can see that I submitted a form, it detected the language, and now it is going to show me that output on the other form. So I'm going to drill down. Instead of working off the task list, I'm going to invoke all the tasks right from here. You can see it detected the language code as PT, which is Portuguese, and the confidence level on a scale from 0 to 1 is 1. That means the Google AI service is fairly confident it is Portuguese. I'm going to go ahead and click submit. Next, it is going to take the same text and translate it into English. It has done that. So I'm going to go ahead and open this. So the Portuguese text has now been converted to English in this case. It says the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. Click submit. Next, I'm going to provide some text which has to be converted to a voice file. I'm going to go back to my scratchpad and copy a quote. Click submit. Now it has converted that into a speech file. And if I go to my Google Drive over here, that speech file is now available. Next, I'm going to move on to the next activity. I'm going to upload a voice file over here, which has to be converted to text. So I'm going to select a speech from former US President Barack Obama. I'll go ahead and click submit. Now, once the speech has been converted to text, I'm going to show that output on the next form. And as you can see, it took the voice file and extracted the text out of it. And the confidence level is 96%. It's English. Click submit. Next, I'm going to do some image analysis. So the first image I'm going to upload is that of this Eiffel Tower. If I expand it, you can see various features over here, a sky, cloud, a tower over here. And I have set it up for label detection. I'm going to open the form, upload the file, click submit. Once the image analysis is done, let's see the results. So as I mentioned, it detected cloud in there, it detected sky, world, tower, wonders of the world. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click submit. I'm going to use landmark detection, so I'm going to open the form. Now in this case, what I'm uploading an image for Taj Mahal. So I'm going to go back to my form and upload that image. Click submit. Once the image analysis is done, let's look at the results. So as you can see, it detected Taj Mahal with a score and various properties. So as we saw in the demo, a business process designed in AgilePoint can now interact with Google AI services to create customer engaging and highly responsive processes. Thanks a lot for your time.